Hey guys, Jay here. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Luxsin X9. Now this is their first product and they have absolutely knocked it out of the park. I would say this is probably the only headphone amplifier that you possibly need for your desktop setup. And I'm going to explain why in this video. Now, if you're not familiar with the name Luxsin, that's because it's a new brand, a sister brand of Eversolo. Now, much like the Eversolo, this thing is packed with features. So if you were familiar with any of the Eversolo integrated streamers like the DMP-A6, A8, or the A10, then you'll be familiar with the user interface and the apps and the features of this unit. And yes, this is primarily a headphone amplifier, but it is also a quality DAC using AKM's AK4499EX chip. And also, it has a formidable preamplifier using the R2R volume control, much similar to the DMP-A8 from Eversolo. Now, the Luxsin X9 interestingly comes around at the price point of $1,099, which means that for people that didn't want the streaming capability on the DMP-A10, you could get the R2R volume control for half the price on the Luxsin X9. And I've tested this preamplifier section in my stereo setup as well as my desktop setup, and I can say that, well, it is not just a throw-in preamplifier. It's actually pretty good sounding, pretty neutral, and pretty resolving sounding preamplifier that I thoroughly enjoyed. And just like the Eversolo, it has a screen in the front which can access all these settings from channel balance, filters, gain settings, you name it. It also has eARC if you wanted to connect it to your TV. And of course, Luxsin being the sister brand of Eversolo, you're gonna get plethora of display options, including the VU meters that we saw on the Eversolo. But I particularly liked this one. This VU meter looked great on this unit. But none of these reasons are why I say that this is the only amplifier, or headphone amplifier I should say, that you need for your desk. Because this unit, yes, it has a sound signature that is very balanced, neutral. I would say it is almost colorless, like there's no kind of obvious, differences between the bass, mid-range, and high frequency. Everything sounds pretty linear. So you're getting a pretty blank canvas to start out with. And that's where the key is with this unit, is that you can cater the sound to however you like. And I mean, however you like. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm super happy to see the PEQ that existed on the Eversolo units existing on the Luxsin, because that becomes really clutch when it comes to tuning the sound profile. But there's additional features that make this unit even more flexible in adjusting the tonality and the kind of sound you want, even if you're not familiar with PEQ. And you can even adjust the sound staging, the width and the depth of the sound stage you get from your headphones. And I have to say, I've never seen it work this well before. So if you're someone that doesn't want to mess with PEQ on your own, you can choose from the many list of headphones on their app or on the screen and choose the corresponding target response that you want for your headphone. They currently have 2,500 headphones listed and more is being added right now by demand. So this list is supposed to be increasing over time, which means for any headphone that you may have in the future, and if you ask Eversolo to add it, the chances are they can easily do so, and you have this whole kind of catalog inside this unit that you can choose from for any response curve you want. Or if they don't have your headphones listed yet, you can go on Google and search up the target response for the headphone that you have, and then add it manually through your own PEQ settings. I don't know about you guys, but that is pretty game-changing for me, as I haven't really seen this in any other headphone amplifiers before. And if I did, probably not to this extent. But believe it or not, as much as I love this feature on this unit, I think is revolutionary, it wasn't my favorite setting on this unit. My favorite settings were actually these two additional features on this unit. So the first, the crossfeed. So the crossfeed essentially is mimicking a stereo speaker setup. So very simply, in a stereo setup, the right speaker is also hitting your right ear, but some of that is also hitting your left ear. And your left speakers, much similarly, will hit mostly on your left ear, but some of that will also translate to your right ear. And this is what causes the stereo imaging that you hear in a stereo setup. Whereas on headphones, well, you don't get that because what is panned to the left during the mixing and mastering is on the left and the right cup is on the right. You don't get any kind of crossfeed. But with this feature, you can actually choose from 3 different crossfeed settings to mimic that speaker experience. And what that translates to in a real world experience is that you get this kind of more imagery in front of you rather than around the top of your head, which is the experience I get with most headphones, even the ones that has enormous sound staging. I usually don't get the sound staging in front of me in a natural way. It is mostly on the top of my head, which I'm okay with, but it was really cool to see this feature actually work because I've seen this feature in other amplifiers and DACs and so on before, but it didn't work quite well as it did with this unit. Like with this unit, with this setting on, like I can sit down with any headphone and I get immediately this kind of distance in front of me, which feels like I'm listening to my desktop speakers, but actually I'm listening to the headphones. And if you thought this crossfeed only works for open back headphones, yes, it makes open back headphones sound more larger. So there's that advantage there still with open back headphones. But with closed back headphones, I'm talking about fully closed back headphones, it sounds like open back headphones now with the crossfeed. Not gimmicky, like actually it sounds spacious enough for me to be mistaking it as a open back headphone. And these are headphones that I've had for a long time. And a part of me, because of this unit, is now re-exploring all the closed back headphones I have going on. Like this HiFiMan HT9 or this SYJ Carbon headphones has never sounded more open with the Luxsin X9 and its features. I'll go for us to say this unit has rekindled my love for headphones. And then I was really pleasantly surprised with this function right here, the stereo width adjustment. And this one I thought was going to be a little bit more gimmicky. And in fact, I thought the crossfeed was going to be gimmicky too, but it worked tremendously well. And then the stereo imaging one, that one was just mind blown because essentially it sounds like what it sounds like. You can increase the width of your soundstage or decrease it as much as you want. At 100, it sounds pretty wide and pretty diffused. So sometimes I may want 80, something a little bit below all the way up to 100. I think 100 is great for some tracks, but a lot of the times it sounded too wide. If that even, I can't believe I said that about headphones. Yeah, your headphones can sound too wide. And of course, you're gonna have to do some adjusting to make it natural sounding to you, but most of the time I thought around the 80 to about 60 setting, around there was my sweet spot, and I messed around that sweet spot. But decreasing it, well, that actually makes the sound more intimate. So if you're someone that wants more intimate sound rather than a wide kind of, stereo imaging, then you can decrease this to make it sound very, very intimate. Like at 0 setting, that was way too intimate for me. I think that's kind of like mono. And without the crossfeed on, if you adjust the slider back and forth, you kind of hear this kind of sound width go from 0 here, like you can hear it right between your head, and then it kind of like widens it up. It's a freaky experience. And the Luxsin X9 was designed in terms of power output to drive most headphones out there, and I really haven't had any trouble driving any headphone with this headphone amplifier. And what makes it even better is that it auto detects the impedance of your headphones to match the gain. So auto detect for gain settings. And what this means is that there's no need for low, medium, or high gain settings that you have to set for yourself. You just plug in your headphone, whatever you have at the time, and it will auto detect for the right gain setting so that when you turn that volume knob, you get the right kind of increment of volume, which again, isn't something I have seen in any headphone amplifier, let alone at this price, which is really cool. And I think more headphone amplifiers should have this. Now, one thing that I do have to mention at the time of this review, the auto detecting impedance thing only works on the 4.4 and the 1/4 inch. It does not work on the XLR. So until they bring that feature to the XLR, you will have to adjust it manually in the settings. In terms of the digital inputs, you get USB, which is what I was using, and then you get eARC, coax, and optical, of course. But unfortunately, in terms of analog inputs, you only get RCA and no XLR. However, you get both XLR and RCA for the analog outputs. But another interesting thing that this unit has is sub-outs, which means you can connect your subwoofers with this unit to integrate to your stereo system or for your desktop system. And of course, what's really cool is that you get plethora of features to integrate your subwoofers, such as cutoff frequency, gain, low pass slope, output type, and so on to give you the maximum flexibility when integrating your subwoofers to your setup. And of course, you can do this for your stereo setup as well, but all this can be done inside your app, you don't have to go to the screen if you didn't want to. And if you use the Eversolo app, it's much the similar way. It works fairly well. The user interface is excellent and it's quick and snappy, and it works flawlessly. It's very intuitive. It took me no time to get around, what I need to get around. But the other real cool thing is that if you wanted the app on your desktop because you have it on your desktop, you don't want to be messing with apps, then you can by copy and pasting the IP address of the unit onto your browser, and voila, now you have the functions, all of it, within your desktop. So you can just change it on the go as you're on your desktop. So I think that's super cool. Now I do wish that the UI was a little bit more catered towards the desktop environment as well, because it's kind of big on my screen. And in terms of the aesthetic choice and the build quality, well, the build quality for $1,000 or so is absolutely excellent. And in terms of the aesthetic choices, that little kind of tilt so that you kind of see the VU meter from your bird's eye view, whatever you want to call it, that is actually brilliant because this is a desktop unit, so the chances of you seeing it at eye level is not likely. So having it a little bit lower kind of props it up a little bit. And I don't know, I just like that touch of aesthetic choice on this unit. And I like it way more than the Eversolo streamers I reviewed. And I'm just gonna say this, I don't know how they did this for $1,000 looking at the internals as well as the externals. Well, I feel like the build quality is better than the Eversolo units. So there's that. The build quality is better on this $1,000 unit for some reason. And yes, I'm talking about the DMP-A10 as well, because yes, while the DMP-A10 is much bigger, like this, the way it's CNC'd, like the way the build quality, when you touch it and feel it, like it's just more hefty, better built. Like it feels like it's gonna last. So anyways, there's my 2 cents on the build quality there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say about this unit. Like if we ever dreamed of a headphone amplifier, I'm not sure if you guys ever dreamed of it, but personally for me, having an amplifier or any unit that has basically no coloration and I can adjust the sound however I want, including the sound stage. I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream right there. You can cater the sound to however you like, including the sound stage. That's not something I can say about any headphone amplifier or stereo gear or anything. There is some flexibility with a lot of units out there these days, but this level of flexibility is my first time. And to see it from a brand that has literally one product, this product right here, so far, is absolutely insane. And of course, they're a sister brand of Eversolo, so this is not their, first rodeo, but still, I think this unit is probably the only unit that you would need. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm saying that in all seriousness. What else do you need? What else can you possibly want? If you have some, comment down below so they can add it to this unit. But yeah, it's so packed with features, and not just any features, but each feature works very well to kind of cater to that, tone or sound stage that you're looking for with your headphones. And not just gimmick wise, like, I hate it when there's crossfeed or any of these features that make the smallest difference. It's like, okay, that's nice, but it doesn't allow me to change how much I want to change it to. This, you can change it to how much ever you want. Like you can change it to make your headphones sound like the most tinny mid-range ever or the most bright headphones ever. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, but you can. That's the point, is that you can do whatever the heck you want on this unit. And call me crazy, but I think this is the future right here, and something that I think will be awesome for reviewers and viewers alike. Because, for example, if I were to review a headphone and I EQ'd it, and I like that EQ setting, I can copy and paste that to my description of that headphone review, and then you can copy and paste it if you have that headphone onto your Luxsin, and you'll get that EQ immediately. All my hard work and blood and sweat, you get it immediately. How cool is that? But why just me? You guys can do it too. It could be on the forums, anyone can just create a profile that someone can copy and paste for that headphone that they're talking about. I think this is just, again, really cool. And heck, I'm primarily a speaker guy and I find this really, really astonishingly cool. If we can have something like this for speakers, like speaker profiles for a target curve and crossfeed and all this kind of settings, that would be awesome. Now, I don't know how that's going to be integrated, but it will be awesome to have something like this for $1,000. Call me crazy, but I know like DVLA and some really expensive stuff have like speaker profiles, but not to this extent. So this will be something awesome to see in a stereo setup for sure in the future, hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was helpful, entertaining, and if it was, please consider clicking that like button and subscribing, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Until next time.